Surprising news has shaken up the football world. Steelers fans, you are not going to believe what was just said about Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's bold, it's controversial, and it could completely change the way people look at this team. So stay with me, because what you're about to hear might leave you stunned. Before we get into the latest updates, take a second to subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and don't forget to press the bell icon. That way, you'll never miss the breaking stories, inside details, and all the news that truly matters for Steelers Nation. Now, let's dive right into today's headline. Colin Cowherd has once again turned heads with his latest comments on Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers. His words are already creating a buzz, and Steelers fans everywhere are paying close attention. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Cowherd's opinion on Rodgers and the black and gold has shifted compared to what he said before the season even kicked off. Earlier, he described the Steelers as nothing more than a more organized version of the Jets, pointing out Rodgers' lack of trust in the offensive line and questioning whether Pittsburgh really had enough reliable weapons on offense. He admitted the team kept spending draft picks and money on linemen, but in his eyes, it still wasn't good enough. And now? Well, let's just say his tone has started to change. For a long time, Colin Cowherd compared the Steelers to the Jets, saying it was like the difference between McDonald's and Burger King. In his eyes, Pittsburgh was just a slightly more organized version of the same thing, but still nothing special. But suddenly, his tone has changed. After watching the Steelers take on the Minnesota Vikings in Dublin, Cowherd admitted he was stunned. He pointed out that Pittsburgh ran for over 130 yards, Rodgers only had 4 incompletions, and his chemistry with DK Metcalf looked sharp. Against a legitimate team like Minnesota, that performance made Cowherd say something we haven't heard in years. This Steelers team could actually win a playoff game. That's a huge shift, especially considering how critical he's been of Pittsburgh's offense in the past 6 seasons. And the most surprising part? While Pro Football Focus has ranked Aaron Rodgers as the second worst quarterback in the NFL through the first 4 weeks, with a grade of just 50.4, Colin stepped in to defend him. He argued that Rodgers is being disrespected when players like Cam Ward, J.J. McCarthy, Carson Wentz, and even Jake Browning are all rated higher. Many of those quarterbacks are struggling badly, yet somehow their grades are above Rodgers. Colin's point was clear. The numbers don't tell the whole story, and what he saw on the field in Dublin told him something very different about Rodgers and this Steelers team. Even more shocking, players like Joe Flacco and Russell Wilson, both recently benched, are ranked higher than Aaron Rodgers by Pro Football Focus. And honestly, that's laughable. To Colin Cowherd's credit, he didn't let that slide. He openly called out PFF's grading system, saying you can't just rely on numbers when the eye test tells a completely different story. Cowherd compared Rodgers to Chris Paul on this Steelers team. Not flashy like Steph Curry, but a veteran leader who makes smart plays, keeps control, and delivers when it counts. He highlighted Rodgers' chemistry with DK Metcalf, pointing out the back shoulder throws and precise timing that only an experienced quarterback can pull off. And the truth is, Rodgers isn't struggling the way critics want you to believe. Defenses are playing too deep safety to keep him from throwing bombs downfield, so instead, he's attacking in smarter ways. That's exactly why the Steelers lead the entire NFL in yards after the catch. Rodgers is putting the ball in the right spots, giving his playmakers a chance to run in stride. Just look at DK Metcalf's touchdown in Dublin. If that throw isn't placed perfectly on the body, at the exact moment of his break, there's no score. Rodgers made it happen with precision. He's protecting the football, finishing drives in the red zone, and playing efficient, winning football. Right now, Aaron Rodgers isn't washed. He's smart, sharp, and proving his critics wrong week after week. If you've been watching Aaron Rodgers this season and honestly believe he's worse than players like J.J. McCarthy, Russell Wilson, or Carson Wentz, then let's be real. You're not paying attention to what's actually happening on the field. Because the truth is, Rodgers doesn't belong anywhere near the bottom of the rankings. He's making smart decisions, he's protecting the football, and he's elevating the Steelers' offense in ways that don't always show up on a stat sheet. Anyone saying otherwise is just buying into lazy narratives. Think about it. Does a quarterback who leads his team with poise, creates scoring opportunities in the red zone, and delivers precise throws under pressure sound like one of the league's worst? Of course not. Rodgers is proving that experience and efficiency can be just as dangerous as flashy deep passes. At this point, the real debate isn't whether Rodgers is struggling, it's whether he belongs in the top 10 conversation among quarterbacks right now. And honestly, after what we've seen, It's getting harder and harder to argue against it. Now let's turn to another voice in the media, one who hasn't exactly been riding the Steelers bandwagon. ESPN's Dan Orlovsky was pretty vocal before the season, saying Pittsburgh wasn't a serious contender, maybe just a 9 or 10-win team that would be bounced from the playoffs right away. But after what he saw in Dublin against the Vikings, even Orlovsky couldn't ignore how different this Steelers team looked. He compared their offensive style to the Kansas City Chiefs, pointing out the use of extra linemen, multiple tight ends, and, most importantly, the explosive yards after the catch. Right now, no team in the NFL is gaining more yards after the catch than Pittsburgh, and that's a formula for winning football. And he's right. This isn't just old-school Steelers football. It's creative, modern, and adaptable. Offensively, they're finding their rhythm. Defensively, they're bringing pressure in unique ways, loading the line of scrimmage, disguising blitzes, and putting their playmakers like T.J. Watt and Nick Herbig in perfect positions to attack. With Deshaun Elliott back in the lineup, the defense looked even more dangerous, showing versatility and aggression all over the field. For the first time in years, both sides of the ball are complementing each other, and that's what makes this Steelers team so dangerous. What we saw against the Vikings wasn't just good football, it was smart, creative football. Mike Tomlin and Terrell Austin rolled out a defensive game plan that looked more like something Brian Flores himself would design, full of disguises and relentless pressure. It kept Minnesota on their heels for most of the night, and it showed just how versatile this Steelers defense can be when they're locked in. On offense, the approach was equally impressive. Jumbo formations, play-action passes, and a balanced run game set the tone. Short throws turned into huge gains, including that electric 80-yard touchdown to DK Metcalf. It was modern football at its best, and it proved that Pittsburgh can adapt and thrive against strong opponents. But not everyone is convinced. Nick Wright, who has been doubting the Steelers for years, still isn't buying into the hype. He's argued time and again that Pittsburgh needed a full rebuild, and he's been critical of Aaron Rodgers at this stage in his career. Even after the win in Dublin, Wright refused to give them too much credit. Instead, he pointed to the Ravens, saying Lamar Jackson makes Baltimore's offense one of the best in football and that Pittsburgh still has a 4-game losing streak in them somewhere down the line. Sure, the Steelers gave up points late in the game, but overall, this was one of the sharpest performances we've seen from them all season. And whether the critics want to admit it or not, something about this team feels different. Nick Wright predicted before the Vikings game that this might be the end of Aaron Rodgers, that the Steelers' shaky offensive line would collapse, that Rodgers' lack of mobility would catch up to him, and that Minnesota's defense would be too much to handle. But what actually happened told a very different story. Rodgers went 18 of 22, threw a beautiful touchdown to DK Metcalf, and ran the offense with complete command. He was poised, efficient, and quick with his release, the fastest average time to throw of his entire career. Instead of being exposed, Rodgers looked like the exact opposite, a veteran who knows how to control a game. Nick Wright may still refuse to believe in Pittsburgh, and that's fine. The more the national media doubts this team, the more dangerous they seem to become. Every week, they're proving critics wrong, and that's exactly the kind of edge that fuels a contender. So the real question is this: are you buying or selling the Steelers' 3-1 start? For me, I'm cautiously optimistic. There's still work to be done, but the signs are there. The defense is fierce, the offense is finding its identity, and Rodgers is showing he can still deliver when it matters most. Stay with me, because this story is only just beginning, and the weeks ahead might reveal just how far this Steelers team can go.